This week on Big Red's Cooking, we make a sourdough boule. Hi, and welcome back to Big Red's Cooking. As always, I'm Big Red. So this week is a continuation of last week's video, and if you haven't watched last week's yet, I'll make sure to link it at the back of this video. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that sourdough starter that we created last week, and we're now going to make an actual loaf of bread with it. You know, so if you actually started it last week, your sourdough starter is probably finishing up just in time right now. If not, you've got plenty of time to make that sourdough starter to get this loaf of bread made for yourself. So you know what, as always, I won't spend too much time talking right now. Why don't we go ahead and jump on over to that workbench over there, and we'll get started right away. Alright, so here's our sourdough starter that we created in our last video. It's actually been sitting on the counter for the last couple of days. I just haven't gotten around to making bread. So we're going to use this to get our actual starter for our loaf going. Right? So this really is almost like a concentrate. And every time you want to make bread, you're going to take some of this, you're going to add fresh flour and water to the bowl that you're going to make your bread in, and then you'll replace, what you took out with more flour and water so that you're constantly keeping it alive. So basically you're taking some away, you're adding back, you're using what you took away to create your bread and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this right in my bowl for my little stand mixer here. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer like I have, just go ahead and do it in a regular flour bowl or in a regular mixing bowl. Of course, a little bit of dust. This is a working kitchen. So of course I'm going to use my handy scale here. Now I will, I'll put a recipe online for this. Today I'm actually going to use about 150 grams of my, that's smelling really good. So I'm going to pour 150 grams into here. So to that, I'm going to add 150 grams of flour. And I'm going to add 150 grams of water. I'm just going to set this aside for a moment. I'm actually going to come back to my starter here. And I'm going to replace the flour and the water that I took out of that. Just give that a little stir around, mix all of our stuff together. So thereby we're replacing what we took out, and we'll keep our starter alive. And now we'll take what we just created here and give that a little bit of a mix around. So there you go, we got this all mixed up. We're going to let this sit for about 24 to 36 hours. So right now it's just before noon. I'm probably going to use this tomorrow evening to make my bread. So what we want to see is that this is going to be nice and bubbly and frothy and whatnot. So we've really got that yeast nice and active and eating away on those starch granules. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to just cover this up with some plastic wrap and we'll check on it tomorrow. Alright, so our starter has been sitting there overnight. It's the next day. We're ready to make our bread. Now this is a pretty straightforward ratio that I use on this all the time. I'm going to include that in my recipe, but you'll notice I have my bowl sitting on my scale here. And the reason why I did that sourdough right in there is that it's going to allow me to mix it right into our bowl. So I initially started with 150 grams of my starter. I added 150 grams of flour and 150 grams of water to that. Now, knowing how much starter I started with is going to make the math a whole lot easier. So right off the bat, 150 grams of starter, I need 6 times that much in water. So it's 900 grams or 900 milliliters. Turn my scale back on. I'm just going to go ahead and add that right on in. Alright, there's my water in. And then I need 10 times as much starter with fresh flour. So again, if I start with that 150 grams of starter, I need 1.5 kilos of flour, which I'll just add in. Oh, I'm 10 grams short. I have 1,490 grams of flour there. I need 1,500. I think I can let it go. And then we need 2% of our flour as salt. So in this case, it's going to be 30 grams of salt. There you go. So we'll go ahead and we'll pop this in our stand mixer. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer like I do, you're welcome to just go ahead and mix this by hand. I'm kind of glad I have a stand mixer. Alright, so we got a dough here now. I'm going to go ahead and turn this out. Onto my bench, and I'm going to work this a little bit more. So of course a little flour onto the bench is going to make this a lot easier. I'll tell you, these rubber bench scrapers they're called, or bowl scrapers, are fantastic. It just makes it so much easier to get that dough out of that bowl for myself. I'm just going to take this now, we're just going to do our final stretching and mixing so we can get a nice smooth ball. So what we're going to do now, we're actually going to put this into a greased bowl, and what I'm actually even doing, so I'll get my grease in there first, a little vegetable oil in this case. Alright, so our dough is good to go at this point. Right now, it's almost 10 o'clock at night for me. I'm actually going to leave this right until tomorrow morning. This is going to take anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to properly double in size. So we'll pick this up again probably tomorrow morning, and we'll take it from there. We'll shape it into our loaves for ourselves. So see you guys in a few minutes, or really in a few hours. So we can see that our dough has risen quite nicely overnight, but at this point now we're ready to sort of shape it into our loaves. So what I actually have here, these are called bannetons, and they're basically wicker bowls. And it allows our bread to proof, because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to bake these inside of some cast iron Dutch ovens, and we'll be preheating those. So what we're going to do then is we'll flip them down in. What I've actually done as well, and I don't know how well the camera is going to pick up on this, but I use just a little sifter, and I actually put flour right down inside it as well. And what that's going to do, that's going to help to keep the bread from sticking to the cloth. So I want to make sure I have reasonably balanced loaves here. So I'm actually going to do this by weight. And this is a somewhat softer dough. And that's sort of normal for this kind of dough. So what we're going to do, when we put these into our bannetons, basically they're going to go in top down. So what's the, your pinch and stuff like that, as you're stretching that dough, and what you really want to be doing is stretching that dough nice and tight. That's what gives us a good crust. That part ends up at the top of our basket. So I'm going to get this out of the way. And that's all that's to it for now. So again, we're going to let this rise up We'll give this another 6 to 8 hours, and then we'll get this into the oven later this evening. So see you guys, well, for you it'll be a moment, for me it'll be 6 or 7 hours from now. Alright, so it's time to get our bread baked here now. So we've got our loaves, they've been sitting around, they've risen some more, and I'm happy and I'm ready for these to go into the oven. So now what we're actually going to do, and this is one of these ways that you get a really nice sort of crust development, is that I'm going to cook these inside Dutch ovens with the lids on for the first 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm actually starting them at a really high heat. I've already got my Dutch ovens put into the oven itself. I put those in before I even turn the oven on so that they get nice and hot with the, as the oven itself heats up. So what we're going to do is we're going to, flip these down. Well, usually what I do, these little bits of pan here, flip them out. Because the other thing we've got to do, and I've got this here tool, it's called a lame. And it's basically just a razor blade on a fancy handle. And we're going to slice into the top of our bread. Because what will happen is when we put this in, there's going to be what we call oven spring. And that's an initial real rapid expansion of the bread as the gases that are trapped in there start expanding from the heat. And if we don't do that, the bread will rip. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut a pattern into it, and then we'll be able to see the pattern afterwards. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get my Dutch ovens out of the oven. And of course, they're cast iron. So the way I like to do this, the other thing too, and it makes it much easier for getting it out of the oven, is that I'm using some parchment paper here. And I find this a very easy way then to transfer it in. So I just put my parchment paper there, pizza pan on top. That allows me to flip that right on over. Come off. Pull away our claw. Like I say, so what we're going to do is we're going to just slice right into this. And we're just going to keep this nice and simple. I'm just going to do a big X pad right across the top. This one, maybe we'll do a little bit of a swirl pattern like this one. So we'll just go ahead and we'll pop these into the oven, and then in 15 minutes we're going to drop our temperature down. Alright, back in a moment. Alright, so our timer is about to go off. There's 10 seconds. I'm not even gonna bother, let it beep. So at this point what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop my temperature down to 400. And I'm gonna remove the lids. And now I'm gonna remove the lids from my pans. So you might be wondering what the purpose of the lids are. What that's going to do is that's going to trap a whole lot of steam in, and that steam changes the way the crust develops. So if you ever had a really good crusty bread, that's what, well, not necessarily that, but they've done something to get some steam into the oven. So you could put a pan of water in there. I've worked places where we actually use just like a squirt gun or a spray bottle to spray water onto the bread. But this works really well as well. So now we're just going to let this bread finish off. It's going to take probably another, say, 35 to 45 minutes. And as we start getting closer, we'll check in again. So see you in a few moments, but really 45 minutes or so. Alright, so just like Toucan Sam, I've learned to follow my nose, and that bread is smelling done. Let's have a quick look at this. Oh yeah, that's looking fantastic. Wait till you see this. Those look awesome. Let me get them out of here. You get a better look. So there's a thing in sourdough bread baking known as ears on the bread. And look at that air. You know, it's sticking right out, and that's what we want to see. And there's our other one. Don't those just look and smell amazing? So I'm actually going to let these cool overnight before I cut into them. And again, I've never gone looking for the science on it, to be honest. I don't know. But I do know with sourdough bread, it really needs to cool down properly to finish baking on the inside so it sets up and things like that. So we're going to let these sit overnight, and you know what? We're going to cut into these for some toast tomorrow morning. So we'll pick up over on our workbench over there tomorrow morning, and we're going to have a look at see what the inside of these look like. Can't wait. Alright, so our bread is all ready to go here. It's cooled down. Doesn't that just look fantastic? I love this big ear on the side. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction here. My dogs are both in the bedroom, lying down right now. They go crazy for bread. I have a feeling as soon as I slice into this, we're going to see both of them come running right on out. So let's see if I can get a slice done before they come out. So the easiest way to deal with a nice big round one like this, so I'm just going to go right down through the center. Did I not call it? Here they are. But let's look at the inside of that. Doesn't that just look wonderful? See those nice big holes in the center? Hallmark of a good sourdough. I'll give the two of these guys a little test. I think they approve. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to slice up a couple pieces of this, pop it in the toaster because I just think it makes a wonderful toast. And we'll slide on over to the counter. We will do our little last taste test. So we'll see you over there. Alright, so doesn't that toast just look awesome? I know you guys are waiting for me to take a bite, so let's go ahead and bite into this. That one bite is almost a meal on its own. So good. It's got that really nice underlying sour notes that we're looking for from a good sourdough bread. It's got a real nice chew factor, right, and toasts up beautifully. So you can see there's not too much to it. This, just like anything else I've been making for you guys in these videos, you guys can make this yourself. And I'm hoping you're going to tackle it. You know, it's not a fast process, but really good things take a long time. And we all have a bit of time on our hands still. So take the time, learn how to make a little bit of sourdough for yourselves. I have other recipes that I'll do down the road. I do a sourdough loaf that is really very similar to something like Nan would make. Comes out like a very traditional sort of pan style bread. And I'll do one of those down the road. But here you go. This is sort of your real classic cast iron cooked sourdough boule. And something for you guys to give a shot to for yourselves. So as always, I hope you've really enjoyed this video. I love making them for you. If you did, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. If you've not done so yet, please make sure to subscribe. Please share these videos around. Drop me a little comment down below. You know, if there's anything you'd love to see me do a video on, definitely leave me a note. I've already had some feedback. And Robert, I want to say hi to you. I love all the comments you've been leaving for me. And I'm definitely going to be dedicating a video to you down the road. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you keep coming back. I hope you make some great food for yourself. And I hope you're having a great day. Bye for now. Namoltas.